Funding for this program is provided in part by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund and the citizens of Minnesota.
Coming to you from Rochester, Minnesota,
Got the feeling in your bones,
our town.
make you feel right at home.
The Rochester Branch of the NAACP and Mayo Clinic have joined forces to develop the Rise for Youth program. Here to tell us all about the program serving youth of color in our community are Wale Alegbede, President of the Rochester Branch of the NAACP, and Dr. Anjali Bagra, Professor of Medicine and Medical Director of the Office for Equity, Inclusion, and Diversity at Mayo Clinic. Welcome both of you to our town.
Thanks for having us. We're really honored. This is just very excited.
Wonderful. Well, to kick us off here, can you tell us what the Rise for Youth program is and what are the program's main goals?
Yes, I could go first. First of all, thank you, Nicole. I am so delighted to be on the show. I've been following the show, and I want to give a shout out to the entire team for bringing this to the Rochester community. And certainly, it's a great honor to be able to share about RISE. So RISE, which expands out to reflect, inspire, strengthen, and empower, is really a program. I see it as a movement. The goal is to make it a movement to really address the racial disparities and barriers and empower truly our youth. We all know that our Black and underrepresented youth have not had the kind of access that some of the other youth in the community may have. So this really is designed to provide that critical educational as well as leadership development skills, in addition to access to opportunity, mentorship, sponsorship, as well as a community in which they can grow and then contribute to the community with their awesome leadership.
Yeah, and just to add a little bit to it's also a strategic collaboration between the NAACP and Mayo Clinic, but there's also a key community involvement. So that's a key piece. You know, a lot of our feedback we've gotten from the community. We've also talked to students. So this is really a great opportunity for us to make just more investment in our community's youth. So
thank you both for that overview. Dr. Bagra, you mentioned in your opening remarks here, you know, the disparities, and I wanted to find out a little bit more about how structural racism is impacting education outcomes for youth in our city, and how this program sort of intervenes in that. Wale? Yeah,
so when you look at the disparities in Minnesota, I mean, Minnesota is a great place to live if you're white. The data shows that. And when you look at just our disparities in terms of employment and educational outcomes, African Americans, Native Americans, Hispanics, Latinos aren't doing so good. So there is a need for such a program. I mean, there have been numerous reports that even show in terms of employment outcomes where candidates have the same skills, identical resumes, in terms of research. And if you're Black, you don't get callback. So that is just one aspect. And also even in terms of just education, the education gaps for students of color is definitely different than those of white counterparts. And yes, poverty has something to do with that, but that is, at the end of the day, this is all symptoms of systemic racism and disparities that RISE is looking to help address.
As part of that, those education outcomes, and of course the Mayo Clinic is involved in the strategic partnership. Dr. Bagra, can you talk a little bit about how those education outcomes are also tied to perhaps disparities within healthcare or even just the healthcare workforce?
Yeah, absolutely. There is a direct relationship, Nicole, to your point of educational disparities with outcomes, because we are talking of the workforce of tomorrow, which we know by 2040, majority of the workforce across the globe is going to be diverse. So our goal is to make this as an access opportunity to that workforce to be able to apply for whatever it is that they would wish to do. It's not only for an employment within Mayo Clinic or healthcare, but this is really creating that bandwidth of a diverse workforce that will hopefully be the ultimate outcome of RISE. That's our goal, to create the diverse workforce for tomorrow.
Yeah, and I want to give just kudos to Mayo Clinic. I mean, this is not an approach of recruiting people into Mayo. This is an investment in the community. And so the youth can take their skills to Mayo Clinic, which would be great, or they can take it back to the community. So again, it's really an investment in the youth, so that way they can be the leaders of the future for tomorrow.
Thank you both, Dr. Bagra and Wale. We're going to take a quick break and dig right in when we come back. Thanks a lot. Be sure to stick around. We have much more coming your way on Our Town. We hit the streets of Rochester to learn more about fashion, and we continue our conversation with Dr. Anjali Bagra and Wale. But up first, we learn more about Rochester's beloved Ear of Corn water tower in this week's Our Culture segment.
The Ear of Corn water tower was chosen by the Reed Murdoch Company after they had built the plant here to use a symbol, that water tower, that would represent what they are doing in the factory below. Hi, my name is Alan Whipple. I am a retired maintenance engineer. I worked about 40 years for Seneca and for Libby's and helped look after the water tower. The function of the water tower was to produce water for washing peas, corn. It takes an extensive amount of water. The tower is 149 feet and 6 inches tall. The water tower itself is made out of 1/4 inch plate steel. It is 49 foot 6 inches in height, and it is 15 foot 6 inches in diameter, and it holds 50,000 gallons of water.
Olmsted County recently bought this canning site, the Seneca canning site. So we now have a very valuable, beautiful piece of property attached to Graham Park here. And we're thinking of how we're going to use that to best help this community out. My name is Stephanie PODULKE. I'm currently the chair of the Olmsted Board of Commissioners for this year. And I've been a commissioner for 10 years. Well, everyone is very sentimental about this, and we got a lot of input from the public about, please don't destroy that Ear of Corn tower. So that space that the corn tower is on is sort of sacred and will always be there, and there, however we use that land, it'll have to incorporate that and work around it. It needed repainting. It hadn't been painted in 10 or 15 years, and it was getting a little bit flaky, and they weren't sure if there was lead in that paint as well, so they used a lot of precautions. But I love what my husband said as they were up there sanding all that paint off. He said every one of those painters should be called Colonel Sanders. And that is the kind of jokes that we use here in Olmsted County because we're so corny. If you think about this little town on the prairie, what do we have to make us special? And one of those things was the Ear of Corn Tower. And this is one thing that makes us stand out. It's our little beacon of pride that we are a farming community here. This is who we are.
It is the most photographed water tower in the world. The visitors always take pictures of the water tower to send back to their loved ones.
It's lit at night. You can see it above the trees. It's something that welcomes people into this town, and I think maybe if they're coming for the first time and you see that there, you might think, well, this is a cute little town. This was known as the fairgrounds for years because it was used heavily for that month and then not used much at all. And it's actually Graham Park. It's a park inside the city that was donated to Rochester by Dr. Graham and his wife. And our hope is that this Graham Park will be a center of community activity and a green space, and that water tower will watch over it all.
For more information about this story and other Our Town features, connect with us on Facebook, Twitter at KSMQ #OurTown, or ksmq.org/OurTown.
Hello, I'm Danielle Teal, your moderator for the Our Town Spotlight. This segment covers organizations, events, and happenings across Rochester. We'd like to thank 125 Live for hosting and lining up our guest, and we welcome today Debra D'Souza, specializing in mosaic art from Moonlight Fine Art and Framing.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, we're excited to have you. So tell us a little bit more about you and your choice of medium, which is mosaic art.
Well, I've always wanted to be an artist ever since I was young, and my formal art training is in painting. I have a BFA in painting, but I also years ago took a stained glass class from Mike and Stephanie PODULKE and Rochester Stained Glass, and I always loved working with the glass, and it's just so fascinating and all the colors and everything. So I had this glass for years and years, and just started, I'd noticed online that people were doing mosaics out of stained glass, and then that's how it started.
So can you describe the mosaic art? Like, what does it involve? Just a little bit for our listeners and viewers.
A lot of times people say, well, you break up glass and then you put it back together.
Right. That's the perception.
Yeah. Well, and that is kind of what you do, but you don't really. You cut the glass specifically to go in the spots where you want it. So it's no different than painting, where you mix up the paint color and you lay that in. This is you pick the specific color that you want and cut it and lay it in. So it's like painting with glass, basically. And so it can be very technical or real free flowing, that kind of thing too.
That's wonderful. Where can the community find your work and connect with you?
Well, of course, I do have a website, and that is debradasouza.com. Also, I have work in downtown Rochester. I did a big project for the city recently of the mandalas and had a group of artists help me and sewed down the alleyway that they're trying to like incorporate art into. And so I have quite a few pieces there. And yeah, we just finished a big grant project. I had gotten a grant through the state of Minnesota where I taught like 50 students over 50 years old, and they created 50 mandalas.
That's wonderful.
Now that show is at 125 Live, and it'll be going to the Rochester Art Center in December.
Awesome. We will share your website. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you.
Hello, this is Michael Wojak with your Our Town Rundown. If you've been out on our trails and seen some magnificent blue birds standing in the waterway, you are probably looking at a great blue heron. Why do we have so many here? Because we have a relatively rare upland rookery where these birds nest. It is currently threatened by a potential subdivision, and the Rochester Township Board voted 5-0 this week to approve the general development plan for the subdivision, meaning it's likely coming in the near future. There are still some tools available to both the Township Board and the Olmsted County Board that could potentially protect this incredibly rare and sensitive environmental site. If this is an issue that interests you, there is an online group that is working to save the rookery, and also a lot of resources where you can read about the decision and the background and come to your own conclusions on it. But if you enjoy those magnificent birds, it's something that you should know this will have an impact on. Now, a lot of incredible events coming to Rochester. It was just announced that Styx will be playing at Mayo Park outside of Mayo Civic Center in early May, and the tickets are going on sale this week. Rochester has an annual Hanukkah celebration downtown, and that is going to be going on Tuesday, November 30th, and that is at University Square, formerly the Galleria. I highly recommend you go down there and get some donuts and latkes. It is fantastic, and you get to meet some cool folks from our community as well. Semyo will be having their fall concert on November 14th at 2:30 p.m. at Century High School. On November 13th, there will be a Christmas market at Mayo Civic Center. Also, getting us in that festive season, the Rochester Male Chorus will be doing their Christmas concert on December 12th at Bethel Lutheran. And finally, if you'd like to give input on the potential 6th Street Bridge downtown, there will be a couple virtual sessions coming up on November 18th. And that is just a little bit of what's going on in Rochester.
My name is Stephanie, and I'm here in downtown Rochester, enjoying the balmy fall weather, soon to become winter. I'm originally from New Jersey, moved to North Carolina. Well, I decided to put the scarf on because it is a bit cool and a bit chilly, but it does, would you like me to demonstrate what it does do? So it can be a scarf, or we can do one of these. If I put my head through it and my arms like this, and it becomes like this little capey, drapey thing back here. There you go.
So my name's Jose. I'm from Detroit, Michigan. Currently, right now, Detroit is 50. I think it's here, the 40s almost. Like when I first got here to Rochester, it definitely was colder. And I had to wear a whole jacket and a sweater underneath my jacket. Now that I've become accustomed to the temperature here, I'm starting to again get my body used to the colder winters that I'm gonna be facing pretty soon these next couple of months. So making that transition into the winter is by slowly getting my body accustomed to these colder temperatures by wearing short sleeves or just wearing shorts here, there. I'm not at the shorts part yet, but it's building up by making small increments and small changes to get ready for the cold temperature. By the time it's December, I'll probably just be wearing a sweater and I won't have to pull out a winter coat, which is ideally, that's the goal for me.
I try to be stylish. So if you'd like to call it stylish, that would be wonderful.
Welcome back, everyone. We are here with Wale Alagbade and Dr. Anjali Bagra here to talk to us about the Rise for Youth program. This second part of this interview, we wanted to learn a little bit more about the program. So can you tell us a little bit about what those key program components are and how they're going to be benefiting youth empowerment and development?
Yeah, so appreciate the opportunity. So first of all, Rise for Youth comprises of two components. The first is Rise High, which is for the high schoolers, and then Rise Up for the undergraduate program. So this is going to be a 4-week program that's going to be available next summer. Now, in terms of the critical components, we're looking at leadership. There's a leadership component. There's also a component of academic enrichment, communication skills, and also career pathways, whether it's project management or entrepreneurship, or just servant leadership. So those are some high-level key components of the RISE program. And in terms of how we even came up with this, we made sure that we talked to the youth and we got some really great information. So for example, our youth have talked about having some diverse mentors, having mentors that really care about students. So we're factoring all of this into the whole program.
And Nicole, if I may add to what Wally already shared. So this is really trailblazing in an evidence-based way because we've used this framework to develop talent within Mayo Clinic, and we've published on it. We've studied the effectiveness of a framework approach. The other thing that I would highlight, we are talking about how the youth will benefit from the program, but I would be remiss if I didn't mention the mentors will benefit tremendously from this program. This is a bi-directional human development program. I wish I am selected to be a mentor and I get to learn. I had the chance to sit on some of the voice of the customer interviews, and to Wale's point, I was blown away by just amazing remarks and observations that our youth were making. So it's a bi-directional program based on a framework that we've studied. It's evidence-based, but it definitely is trailblazing because we've never done this before.
And I'll just add something quickly. So yesterday we talked to some youth in the community in terms of just the benefit of long-term mentoring And one student, he talked about when he went into mentoring, he was a book full of questions. And when he came out of the mentoring, he was a book full of answers. And so that is the type of things that, the Rise for the Youth program is going to provide for students. We need to make sure we have engaged mentors. Is going to be a long-term mentorship. So this is going to be a great benefit to our youth.
I love that image of coming out a book full of answers. And it's so great to hear on the ways in which you're centering the voice of and the needs of the youth and young adults in the program. But it is a human development program, as you're saying, Dr. Bagra. Sometimes these programs, not this particular program, but programs like it, they have gaps, as we're sort of developing and piloting them, or they lack a sustainable continuum from one step to the next. How are you thinking about program evaluation and assessment of those long-term outcomes that the program seeks to achieve?
Yeah, so I actually look at it as a very iterative process. This program is really rooted in transformation, sustainability, and agility. And based on the feedback that we get from our youth, so there are two components, Nicole. We're going to have very robust short-term metrics or evaluation points. We've used our curriculum designers at Mayo have been really engaged in creating a robust curriculum, but we will be regularly evaluating the efficacy and effectiveness and make the changes that we need to. We are not going to wait for only long-term outcomes. Sure. In the long term, though, what we would love to see is more of outcome goals. Where are these youth going? Where are they taking their talents? How are they giving back? How are they serving as mentors to others? How are they building their mentors? So, and that framework is still in development when it comes to long-term, because we continue to evolve it. But in the short term, definitely, the youth will tell us what's working, and whatever's not working will no longer be a part of the program.
Yeah, and in terms of just the commitment of Mayo Clinic, so when the NAACP went into this, we didn't, it was an intentional approach. I've known Dr. Bagra for a while, and there is definitely trust there, and Mayo Clinic is fully committed to this. So again, we're looking for something that's sustainable, something that is that's going to be operationalized. And again, this is the pilot here of getting this set up, but that commitment is there. So from an NAACP perspective, we are very much excited about this. And yes, there's a lot of work to be done, but that commitment of equity, diversity, inclusion, social justice, it's definitely there.
So in the same vein of sustainability, I want to ask both of you, where do you see the Rise for Youth program in the next 5 years?
Yeah, for me, I think we need to make sure that the Rise for Youth program positively impacts our youth. We have the trust is there through Mayo Clinic. NAACP is engaged. There's community engagement. It's not just going to be the NAACP selecting students. Barbershop Talk, Diversity Council, our Somali community, others, educators are going to be part of that. So I think, within 5 years, my personal goal representing the NAACP is to make sure that this provides value to the students, that they're able to, have a good job. We're able to track how are they doing within the community? Are they giving back? So those outcomes, those metrics are going to be key, but it needs to be valuable for them and make a difference. And for the mentors as well, it's going to be a way for them to give back. And if you're talking to students and you're developing those long-term relationships, that's where access and network also naturally happens.
Nicole, I'll add to that. I'm a dreamer and with big aspirations. So I truly see this in 5 years. This will be a movement with national risen champions helping others grit through this. So I truly see this as a national level movement in 5 years. I want to see our youth holding office. I want to see our youth doing whatever it is that brings them joy. And leadership looks different to everybody, but I hope we'll see a lot of Rise champions over the next 5 years.
That's a great vision. As we're wrapping up here, how can the community get involved? We heard a little bit about mentorship. What are other opportunities that are available for people to even just stay up to date or learn more?
Yeah, I'd say people should go to the NAACP Rise for Youth page. We're going to be having updates. Also, through the Mayo Clinic's community page, there'll be updates there. On the 15th, we're going to have an application. That's when the application process starts. So if you're interested and you're a youth, please just go and apply. and then the application process is going to go through February of next year. And again, this is the start, this is the pivot year, but similar to what Dr. Barger has said in terms of the 5-year goal and vision, I think that is totally great. I mean, from a national NAACP perspective, they recognize that last year, a lot of organizations made commitments in terms of equity, but maybe there's not a lot of follow-up. And what Mayo Clinic is doing is they're not just bringing in financial resources, but the sweat equity, which is even more important. You're fully invested in this. So we're excited.
Thank you both so much for joining us. It's a pleasure to have you on the show, and we'll continue to stay up to date on things as they develop.
Thank you, Nicole, for this opportunity.
Thanks for having us, Nicole.
And thank you all out there for joining us today. For more wonderful content produced right here in Rochester, please be sure to check us out on Facebook and Twitter at #OurTown. Be well and stay safe. I'll see you next time on Our Town, the show about Rochester.
Funding for this program is provided in part by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund and the citizens of Minnesota.